All right, here is January 9th. It's Tuesday. You'll see, you can already see what we did today, but I wanted to show you. You always want to reference the previous day. So the previous day was all of this. Let's see. We moved about 320 points ish. So that was the move. It was a big move, but it needed to happen. That's usually usually get big moves when a trend is being reversed. So you can see all last week we trend down. Then Monday they broke the trend and they just sort of grinding out and sort of squeezed everybody. Then today you can't just because there's a lot of volatility and there's a lot of range. You gotta be really careful, and you have to just trust in the pivots. So this is what's considered play. Like, just because you have a massive gap down, so you see how this gapped 100 points and a little more than 100 points, and you're like, oh my god, a lot of people think, oh, we're gonna keep going down. No, just compartmentalize and get rid of all distraction. It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing, and you literally just have to enter blindly near a level. You put in a 10-point stop, 10, 15. If you get stopped out, you get stopped out. But if you're right, then you're right very well. I mean, if this ends up filling the gap, then that would be 130 points. You could just risk one contract, and that would have been about a little over $2,000. So anyways, let's play this out and I'll show you what ends up happening. So you can see that. Let's take a look at the left. This is a 30-minute chart. So that means these are 30-minute candles with a 4-hour overlay candles. These are the big candles are 4 hours. So 4 hours is broken down into two sessions. So a lot of times the first 4 hours ends at 12:30, and then the last 4 hours, at least the way these candles works, ends at the end of the trading day. So really, the afternoon is a little bit shorter period, but I like to break. I've just found that it's a lot easier to break down your days by being done. The moves usually happens at noon, and then seeing what your 12:30 candle. But we'll go through the rules. I'll try to make this as quick as I can. I know I have a tendency to talk, so I want to make this entertaining and also easy for you to follow. So let's see. Rule number 1. Where do we open? We opened at or above a pivot. So what do? You go long. Okay. What ended up happening the first 5 minutes? This shot up almost 50 points. So from here, it crossed over 2 fibs, because you got the middle section as 2 fibs, and then this is the bear pivot. So where did it go? It went from 16,666 all the way to 16,713. So almost 50 points. Then what did they do? After the first 5 minutes, they dropped it another 50 points. And so from there, you're thinking, well, it didn't take. It took about 10 minutes, and there was a chop. It came down, then came back up, then they went back down. But in this case, you're in your mind, you're thinking, oh, we're still going down. We're gonna keep going down. No, you have to imagine. I mean, draw a freaking line, a huge line, and just imagine that being a wall. And until you have a candle that clearly breaks through and is a solid line, you just have to trust in that. And a lot of times, you just have to blindly get in. And when I say blindly get in, you get in near a pivot. So if you would have got in at 67, and you risked, say, 10 points. I mean, really, 15 points, it gives you enough. Look what it ended up doing. It came down to 16,662 area. So not even 10 points. So if you got in with the stop, 10 points, and then just trust in it to go the opposite direction. You want to be buying into these dips, right? Because we still are bullish. I mean, just because we open low, I'm looking at this EMA right here. We never broke below it, right? And look, we're even at a fib. So there's a lot of confluence. So you have this fib, you have this mid, I call it the mid pivot, because this is the bear, mid, ATR, full ATR. So from there, I'll just go ahead and push play, and actually let's go ahead and see the entire day. So I just wanted to start the video off showing you that that first 30 minutes, sometimes if you just let it be, and even if you don't trade it, you know, you can sort of see a direction and not be shooken out. Like if this 30-minute candle closed below here, then yes, we probably would have had more downside, and they could have flushed it, you know, all the way down to, you know, possibly this bull pivot. You know, bull pivot would have been miraculously right here at the -1 ATR. So, and they're not gonna do it all in one fell swoop. Like the majority of the move's not gonna just happen in 30 minutes. Like give it some time and breath. So let's look at what happened in the day. Boom. They ended up doing exactly what the market wants to do. It's just a healthy pullback, because a lot of time the when you have a big move, you see right here is a halfback. It's about roughly about half of the move from the previous day. I mean, that halfback rule works for anything. It works for, you know, 30-minute candles, works for whatever candles. So a lot of times you'll have after a big push, you have these pullbacks into half of the previous candle. So anyways, what this is considered, so going in, you have to have a plan. It's like, oh, we are opening down here. So it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to break, and if it breaks, then you know you're going to go short for the day, and then you basically are going to, it's almost guaranteed to come down here. If it breaks down here and stays below, right? Stays below as in you have 30-minute candles. But if it doesn't, where can this go? First you got to fill the whole gap, right? So you're going to first fill the gap, but normally what ends up happening, I would say 90% of the time, you're not going to just have a gap fill and then come all the way back down, especially when you're in an uptrend. You're basically just going to have a continuation. So let's talk about how this plays out. So here you have the first 30 minutes. You see how the candle closed, and then the next 30 minutes, really the first 5 minutes of that 9 a.m. candle, you see how it came back down into this fib and into VWAP. And then I think it might have ended up coming down the next 5 minutes a little bit more, and then they reversed it, right? So you have to visualize, now that we have this solid green candle above VWAP, you know, they've picked a direction, right? So you should be scooping anything that goes. You should not be shorting, because you don't want to be shorting into a support, right? You're shorting into a support. You want to be buying into support, going into resistance. If you were below here, anything that goes up, you want to be buying into resistance and then selling at support. So right there, this is what's considered a you're just one time framing up. See how it's going up on the 30-minute candles, going up, and it takes time. I mean, this is a lot of points right here, right? So it's going to take a while. I mean, just the gap is 130. I mean, that's almost 200 points from the bottom. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I personally didn't do very well today because this right here, the first 15 minutes shook me out. I broke a lot of rules, and then from there, I just like lost my vision. Even though before the market opened, I knew exactly what it was going to do. I knew that they're going to be buying the dip, and then eventually we're going to go up to the bull pivot. I knew exactly we were going to go to the bull. Also, the reason why I knew they're going to go to the bull pivot is, you see this dotted line? Let's take a look. What is that dotted line I drew? Miraculously, look at this. At the beginning of last week, on the first day, on a Tuesday when the market's open, that's where we open, in this candle right here, right? So all of this is a gap. This is a huge gap. If we clear this, we're filling this gap. If we don't, then that's the high, and that could be the high for the week, right? And so how today played out is it actually ran right up into it, then consolidated. So tomorrow we'll see. You know, they might fake it, go up, and then come back down, or they may clear it and then they go all the way up here, which would be in line with the plus 1 ATR for the week. But here's the thing: Thursday is CPI, so I just don't know what they're gonna do. But I don't need to guess. I just need to play the chart. As in, anything above this line, you go long. Anything below this line, you go short. Why you go short? Because this is a major multi-day pivot. This is your bull, your mid, your 1 ATR. It's the same thing with your daily ATRs. So this is what's super important. When you see these run-ups, and then it stalls out, and you think, oh, they're going to short. I mean, you can short this. This is what you should do, right? Because as rules, when you go into a pivot, just short, risk, but just know that you want to be moving your stop or taking profit, because the trend is up. Even though we gap down, the trend is up. This is basically just a pullback. So you can see what they ended up doing, come down right into the pivot. They actually broke that. You can't see it, but they broke it a little bit, then they scooped it up, right? That's the indication that they're just buying this up. They're just buying it up. And eventually, right here, this is the 10 a.m. candle. So you see how they went up, came down, came up, and this looks like they're going to drop it. And then right at 10 a.m., they opened, and then they shot it up, and that first 5-minute candles closed above. And then they tried dipping it below, and they bought it up. After this candle, you should be, look at this. You should load the boat. Load the boat. Really, it's risk. You should, take care of risk. But right here, this is important. The fact that they closed it, and then they are gobbling this up. You want to now be going long, and it's almost guaranteed that it's going to go at least to here. I would say at least to the 794. Why 794? See to the left? That's that multi-day, right? That's when the 30 minutes candle should hit. So what does it end up doing? It ends up, shooting up, and didn't quite make it, but the likelihood of it coming back down is rare. It's picked its direction. So this is what's considered you're now in box territory. So remember the box plays where if you open below or open above, then you could be consolidating in the bear and bull pivot. So now that you're in this, I would almost say 95% chance that you're gonna go to the bull at least, right? But as per rules, you need to be taking profits along the way, because you could easily go up and this could come back down, and you can lose all those gains, and then they could have then at say noon shot this thing up. You don't know when, but knowing that this right here should be your low for the day. Anyway, so with that said, now you just progressively manage your position. You just step away, right? And so you see then right here, the new TPO, this was at 10:30. So what's the rule? So, I always say, where are you at 10:30? Are you above or below a pivot? Well, technically you are below this pivot, right? But you are above the main pivot. These are the main pivots. If you were below here at 10:30, load the boat, and this thing's going to go down, right? This thing is probably going to reverse and go down. But the fact that you crossed over this, if anything, at 10:30, they could have came down and then reversed right there. That's why this is super. You don't want to be playing in between pivots. If you missed it here, you're really stuck, right? I guess at the end of the day, you could get in here and risk to below this candle, which sure enough, you see right here, it never broke. But you're taking a risk, right? You're far away from a pivot. So anyways, because if you're above a pivot, a major pivot by 10:30, it should complete its move by noon. And look what ends up happening. It was actually off by 5 minutes. At 11:55, it was about 15 points away from reaching it, and then was at noon when they actually pushed it up. And then what they ended up did was this was the afternoon play. It's a classic. It happens quite often. I need to go back and actually run the statistics, but you have a push and then the next candle fail. You see that that's a failed breakout, and then now possibly it is set its high for the day. If it ends up coming back above here, then it's going to squeeze, and the likelihood it will go to the next pivot, right? Depending on the time. As in right here, this is what would have had to happen. Came down, they scooped it up. This needed to break through with momentum and keep going. If not, they were going to chop it for the rest of the day. Sure enough, they chopped for the rest of the day. That's how you have to identify. And look where they end up chopping it, between this pivot or this resistance and this support. And they held it to true. And where that came from was this mid pivot and the high or the open of last week. So that's your technical analysis. That's why it's super important. I mean, even if you didn't have that line, look, just play the pivots. Like if you don't have those lines, this just gives me a better sense of bigger time frame. So with that said, if you missed all of this, look, you could have came at 12 o'clock and then look, you would have had a 50-point move. And then look, right at 12:30, where are you at? What's the rule? Are you above or below a pivot? You're above a pivot. So you should go long. If you would have scooped right here, within 15 minutes, they retraced into another 50-point move. Then they double topped, and then another 50-point move. So once you start making about 150 points, give or take, this what I've noticed. When you have a 50, 50, 50, don't expect another 50, 50, 50. Like it's all the orders are drying up. So your moves are going to be a little bit smaller. Plus, you'll see that a lot of times it starts forming some kind of consolidation pattern. So here's your lower high, came up, lower high, lower high. So the last 10 minutes, what they ended up doing is dropping it and then scooping it up. So that is the day.